Machine.
Hi there, it's Claire here, and welcome to Hot Pod Time Machine. This is the podcast where we explore a decision from our past which changed the trajectory of our future. And I am very happy to say that we have the lovely Alex McKenna on this episode.
Hey.
Hello, Alex. Now,
Hello.
when I asked you about, to think of a decision, don't tell us what it is yet. What were the kinds of decisions that went through your head? Because we make micro and macro decisions every day. So what were you thinking?
Well, okay, without revealing anything, that the one that I landed on, I have chosen to live in other places. So I think when big life changes have occurred, whether it be breakups, a parent's death, something that has just really shifted my internal landscape, I have called, they sometimes call it pulling a geographic, and that's just picking up and basically starting over somewhere new. And so, I thought about when I went to Exeter University in England and when I moved to New York. And yeah, those were some things that flew through my brain as far as big decisions that perhaps changed the course of things.
Those are huge. Those are huge. You've been over to England, and then you've been over to New York, and obviously you're living in LA.
Yeah, born and raised in Los Angeles.
Which is rare. I rarely meet someone born and raised. Why is that?
It's funny because I know there are a lot of babies born every day here in Los Angeles. I mean, it actually sounds made up. I was born on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood.
What? Okay, so you're
Right?
proper LA.
Proper.
Okay, you're the most Los Angeles lady I've ever met. You're
except just by birth. I will say, even my friends who know that I'm from here, and mind you, for the most part, even though I've had all the different hair colors, I'm blonde with blue eyes. So you'd think California surfer. I do surf. That would be, but I never get, oh, you're from LA. It's always, oh, you're from New York, right? Which
I wonder
find
what does somebody from New York, what's their vibe? What do they look like or sound like, I guess?
I think, well, there's the typical California man. We're just here and we're cruising the 405 to the 101. We're going to hit the, and then eventually we'll go over to Topanga and hit the PCH. And everyone's partially high on a juice fast and, sun-kissed or something. I don't know. That's sort of, I think, or they're a reality star, and most of those people are not from LA. I think they give LA a bad rap. I mean, LA at its core is inherently superficial. It is, and I don't even mean that with a negative connotation. It's fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
You can go 20 minutes in any direction. You have, contingent on traffic. Yes. But you have beautiful beaches. You have amazing mountains to hike. You have, it's just desert. It's the strangest, most beautiful place. These, grand sweeping old Hollywood mansions. And then, everything is pretty because it's green for the most part. And, the weather is, or at least prior to the extreme changes of climate change, has been really temperate. And then, I think when you go to New York, or at least New York City, it's this a little gruffer, a little grittier, a little more direct. It's people have a lot of focus. Yeah. They tend to look in the eyes when they're talking to you. They'll tell you to fuck off, but in the same breath, they'll also make sure that you're okay. It's, there's no pretense there.
Yeah, which I quite like.
Thank you.
But I also quite like the weird fakeness of LA because I'm from Glasgow, which is so diametrically different from LA. So growing up in Glasgow, where it's cold, it's grey, everyone swears a lot, no one gives a crap. They're very our humor is very take the piss out of you kind of humor. And the more that we do that, the more that we love you. We're just really taking the piss out of you. So you can, and a lot of my American friends, or the Americans that I meet when I'm doing conventions and events, when I take the piss out of someone, I have to kind of almost soften it because they go, oh. And I'm like, no, it's okay. We're getting on. That's right. I like you. It's fine.
Yeah.
So I get that East Coast gruffness. I understand it, but I love that kind of, oh my God, ma'am, are you all right? How are you doing? Like, how nice. I love that. It's so great. Everyone's working for their tips and they're all like super happy, even though they hate you. It's fine by me.
Yeah.
I'm down with that. I'm down. So tell me, Alex, what was the decision that you wanted to talk about on this episode?
Okay. It sort of aligns with the pulling a geographic, but it also, I think, aligns with shifting the course of, my life. Like I've been working since I was 5. And so I have always loved acting. I love it. I mean, I was very fortunate that my parents were not, stage parents. They didn't send me there because they were like trying, or, there, meaning like with an agent to audition, because they were trying to live out some dream through me. It literally was my after school activity. So, some kids play football, some kids play baseball. I went to auditions and then would work, but I always went to real school. And if I got good grades, I got to keep doing it. So long story short, I'm in my senior year of high school and I get an audition for this show that was on NBC called Crossing Jordan. And I end up booking it and I play the main guy's daughter, and Miguel Ferrer, he was a brilliant actor, a wonderful man. I learned so much from him. But I also, had been applying to colleges. And I think at the time, it's less so now, but when I was in school or when I was an actor, you kind of couldn't do both things. There were maybe 2 actresses that I knew and respected that left acting and went to college. And it was Claire Danes and Natalie Portman. They were the only 2 that I knew of. Everyone else was like, you're just going to completely sideline your career. Like it's going to go bye-bye if you leave. And my parents were super supportive. And so I ended up getting an offer for another show and instead decided to go to college in the middle of nowhere, Ohio. So it wasn't even like I went to NYU and maybe could have done both, which also was a thought. But I felt when I was applying that I'd been to New York a lot. I knew what that was going to be, and I wanted something completely different. And I saw this idyllic school in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's the shit that you imagine when you're thinking that's college.
Wow.
And like almost, though that was in high school, but oh, Captain, my Captain, when Dead Poet Society, like it's that beautiful. It gets voted year after year, at least in the top 2. It's insane. And I went there for an overnight. So you're called a prospe, you're like a prospective student. And it was the only school where people were fucking smiling. And I was listening to these conversations and people having dialectics about shit, like truly just about ideas and theories, and like not in a pretentious way, not in a I'm trying to be smart and elitist way. Like people were really curious and it was fucking beautiful. No one had a cell phone. That was like very uncool. If you had to take a call, you went somewhere, like you didn't walk down Middle Path with a cell phone. That was like very looked down upon.
Yep.
And it felt like being transported in time.
Wow.
And I thought, well, shit, if I'm going to leave a career to go to college, I want to go to fucking college, like, university. And so I went to this small liberal arts school, and I think they thought that I was going to be a theater major, and I was not.
Interesting. So from that time, how did that shape your psyche and your thinking through those years and then into your sort of adult years? Because that's quite a shift to go from one to the other.
I think, the positive thing about working as a kid, and I was just having this conversation recently because I've been asked, when you have kids, would you let them act? And when I was younger, I would say no, because I think, it requires so much of being an adult when you're really young.
Yeah.
However, I did love it. So it's this funny thing to balance in my brain. I was an only child. I liked being talked to like I was an adult, and I liked the responsibility. And if I didn't want to do a project or something, I was allowed to say no. So, I don't know that these were the best long-term career moves, but, as a human development, absolutely important. And I think getting a timeout just to be, you're not quite a kid when you're 18, but you still kind of are, prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed. Like, we're still kids.
Yeah.
And I got to be in this magical place where my only job was to study and to think and to write and to learn. And I made some of the best friends that I still have to this day. And I got to see that there were other sides of me that I could foster and that could flourish, that, I wasn't just an actress, which now nobody's just anything. But I think then there was a constant apology, for doing this thing, that I felt like I had to prove that I was worth more than just, a floating head on a screen or a body pretending to be somebody else. And I think it gave me so much amazing life experience. That's when I got to move to England, because I switched majors. I was studying neuroscience because I was considering being a neuroscientist or some kind of doctor. I don't know. I just was interested in things, and science, particularly the science of the mind, the inner workings of the brain, was something that I couldn't get enough of. But then I went to Exeter University, and I got to live in England for a whole year with a student visa and travel alone to Paris, not speaking French, and, meeting incredible people and seeing things that otherwise I wouldn't have had the opportunity to, or, I don't know, the space, I think.
Incredible. And in terms of neuroscience and like studying that back then, do you feel that experience or the study of neuroscience itself has informed your creative life at all in terms of being an actress? How has that informed that side of things?
Well, by the time I graduated, it was a major in English literature, a minor in sociology with its concentration in neuroscience. And so the way that I broke it down in my brain was, I'm a forever storyteller. I do it. That's what acting is. That is what writing is. I want to tell stories, right? So literature was me exploring, learning the inner workings of how to tell a story. Then sociology was, okay, well, how does that story fit within the greater context of our society? How is that story influenced by socio-political stuff, economic stuff, racial privilege, like whatever it is, like that's the sociology portion. And then the neuroscience was, okay, but why this person in this world, like it up here, I'm really fascinated now with trauma and how that can actually rewire your brain. And I think it's really fascinating that there is this huge boom of ADHD or other kinds of neurodivergent diagnoses happening. And there is a philosophy right now that often, I will say, is born out of trauma. And we all went through this collective fucking trauma with the pandemic. And so people's brains now are, as somebody who's got pretty severe ADHD and has for their whole life. And, that doesn't mean that I'm super hyper. I think that's a great misnomer. I think it's, attention deficit disorder is like, that's not quite it. Everybody's brain's different, but that's what I kept learning, is that we are all so different. You could have two twins with the same DNA, with the same life experience, be completely different humans. Like, why is that? One being more resilient than the other to some kind of trauma, the other not being able to, like, why does that happen? And I think, the brain is the universe of the mind. And I really do mean that. I mean, the links to what the actual sky stars look like with what's happening with the neurons firing in your brain is insane. It's the most, I just think it's beautiful. I think it's incredible. And I don't think we'll ever know all of the answers, but that's what makes it so exciting and fascinating.
Absolutely. I don't think, I mean, we don't know a lot of the answers to a lot of the things inside of us or outside of us, you know? And we will one day. I totally believe that we will. But it makes me angry and slightly annoyed when you get people who are very resistant to say things like astrology and things like that, but also very resistant to the idea that, oh, it's just an avatar now, this mental health stuff and this, that, and the next thing. It's just whatever. And you get a lot of people that are like, it's just nonsense. It's all nonsense. I don't understand why people don't understand that, yeah, the brain is complex and life is complex. And we don't even know how we're really connected. The moon controls the flow of the oceans, right? You know, and I often feel when there's a full moon or a new moon, I feel a bit, it's a full moon this week, and I'm already like, oh, feeling it. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Why are people still so closed minded?
I think it's fear a lot of the time. You know, the unknown is terrifying because we all want this semblance of control to some degree, right? I mean, that's why, you know, OCD is really prevalent. A lot of people, I mean, I'm truly, because it's so unknowable and because we've been kind of programmed by society not to trust ourselves, right? Like, how many people watching right now actually know how to like change their own tire?
Yeah.
How many people know how to fix a leaky faucet? Like, back then, pre-social media, pre-internet, you used to learn these things from your elders. There was like ritual, there was understanding, there was more connection to nature. And I think we've gotten so divorced from those things that and I'm saying we as like a general population, you know, hold on to the little things that we think we can control, which ironically is frankly nothing, because the controls, right? You know, sometimes people use religion, people use just shunning everything. It doesn't matter. I mean, things can change in a second.
I know.
And you can't control any of it. And if astrology or astronomy or I don't know, your daily meditation, if it can give you some sort of insight or at least shine a light into something to look at, like, why would you not be interested?
Exactly.
I don't understand that.
Well, when we first met last year, we
Last year or 2 years ago? No, last
that
year?
was last year. It was only last year. It was October last year because we were celebrating it was like everyone's birthday. Your
Mhm.
birthday, my birthday,
Yep.
two or three other people in our group. We all had birthdays. And we bonded over because I'd interviewed you in the afternoon, and you never get to talk too much during an interview. It's just what it is. And in the evening, we got sort of lumped together, and we just immediately started talking about witchy stuff,
Yes.
which I love. Have you always been into the witchy stuff, like tarot or astrology or all of that kind of stuff? When did that kind of come into your sort of like, you know, your world?
Well, my mom, when I was very, very young, so my mother had been raised Catholic, converted conservatively to Judaism. And this is like way before I was born. And when I came into the picture, she sort of was like, listen, well, she sent me to Jewish preschool, but she was like, what speaks to you? And so I went to church and I went to temple and I, you know, studied these other things. I must have been like 7 or 8, you know, old enough to like read and think and not, but still like a child. And she said, so what are you thinking? You know, what feels like it speaks to you? And I looked at her and I was like, Mommy, I'm a witch. And she was like, but this is like when, you know, this is like Little Mermaid time. Like, being a witch was like Ursula. Like, that wasn't like a cool thing. Nobody wanted to play witches. It was,
Yeah.
you know, people wanted to be princesses
Yeah.
or mermaids and I just was like, no. And she said, okay, what does that mean to you? And I said, I just think there's energy in everything, and the nature speaks to us and we can speak to it, and it just makes the most sense. And nobody is the boss is, I think, also what I said, which, you know, you have your like leaders in religion, and I didn't really understand why that was important, and I still kind don't, but that's for me.
Yeah.
I think if whatever religion you choose makes you a kinder, nicer, more inclusive and acceptive human, fuck yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Good.
Love it.
Makes you feel
But if
happy.
it Sure, but if it ostracizes other people, then pretty sure you just got caught up in a scam.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much of that. I sort of prescribe to that kind of do whatever you want in life, as long as you're not hurting anybody and you're not unkind to yourself or anyone else. Apart from that, go and do and say what you want. But yeah, kindness, I think, above all else. I like how that you felt there was an energy between things when you were a little kid. I don't know when my kind of spirituality kind of kicked in. My family never talked about it much, but we had certain members of the family who could see things. They were like, they could see spirits, but they were always like the crazy ones. But also, they weren't so crazy that my mum or my dad wouldn't kind of listen to them. We're all kind of open. And I don't know, there's something about seeing energy, feeling energy in a place. Have you ever seen anything scary, spooky, or felt energies?
Mhm.
Oh, tell me, in your own home or somewhere else?
Actually, the house that we moved into, when I moved back with my then boyfriend to Los Angeles from New York, it was because my mother was ill, loved living in New York, but needed to be home. And long story, actually, she passed, and I'd never bought or sold anything before, but had to sell her home. And anyways, waited for about 9 months, and then had been every night. I kind of used to joke that it was my porn. Like my husband would say, what are you doing? And I'm like looking at my porn, and it was really the websites like Zillow or
Yeah,
Redfin, which are just like housing websites,
house porn. I call it house porn. I love house porn. Yeah.
And because we were settled back here, I knew that there was no way that I could leave for quite some time. I had so much to deal with because I was the trustee, and wow, the government does not make it easy to handle somebody's personal finances. Affects literally like tying up someone's life after they pass. You get absolutely no time
Yeah.
to grieve or anything. So at night I would be just looking at houses, and I saw this one house on the market for the second time, but it was like 9 months later, and it had come down in price, and it was in the area of town that I was hoping to live in. And I was supposed to leave for New York the next day. I had some sort of work thing, and it was a later flight. And I said to my husband, like, we need to go see this house. And, it's this old 1920s historic home, like properly, like everything in this house up here. It's hand painted from the 1920s and
Wow.
wood in it that doesn't exist anymore. And so we go to see this house. And as we're driving up the street, I get these chills that I was like, okay, noted, interesting. But I remember thinking, my brain's going, I don't like how narrow these streets are. I'm not going to love driving this, but I'm getting these weird chills. I'm like, okay. We walk into the house, and I immediately burst into tears because I was like, oh, I'm home. Total. And every single room, it was like, oh, this room is going to be my office. It's like the perfect closet for a recording studio. Only room in the house, but just like little things here and there. Like, it's my husband paints, very artistic. I do too. I'm a huge reader, do a lot of audiobooks. And we go into this room upstairs that we're like, because want to have children, all the things. And it's the perfect room for a nursery. And there's a hand painted on one side book, like just this beautiful like book painting. And then on the other side is like a paintbrush with like its palette. And I was just like, every room, I was like, oh, I see this. Oh, I see hosting my orphan and stray Thanksgivings here. Holy shit, this is going to be my home. So we're in this house. We have to do a bunch of stuff because it hasn't, the electricity was nuts. It was copper wrapped in cloth wiring from a million years ago. Wow. A normal house runs on 200 amps. This was 40. All these things that you're like, oh my God, I've never owned a house. What am I doing? Like, this is historic. I have to do all these special, what are we doing? But it felt so right. And we had this work done because they had to change it all out. And I could tell something was up with like some of, the workers a little bit. And they said that something kept like throwing rocks at them downstairs, and they had tried to like record it with their phones, and the phone would smack down, or it just would show up fuzzy. And like, if anybody's watched these, spooky ghost shows, ghost hunters, whatever, those are like pretty typical, you know, uh, things that will happen if there's some sort of presence. So I'm alone in the house for like the first time. Like, there's nobody here. My dogs weren't here for some reason. I think my husband had taken them. And so it's only me. And I'm upstairs and I'm in the kitchen. I'm making myself a snack. And this crazy music comes on. And I'm like, that's weird.
Oh.
Where is this coming from? And it's next door to an elementary school. And I'm like, oh, maybe they're doing something. And then it's voices. And I was like, oh, must be something. They're doing some sort of event next door. So I walk outside. There's absolutely no sound. There's no music. There's no talking. And so I come back inside and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And I'm like, holy shit, it's coming from the basement. Okay.
Oh no.
Okay. I like took a deep breath, and then I walked downstairs, and somehow the old owners had left like a radio, like it was like part of like a little radio sound system kind of thing,
Right?
just on, just turned on. And I was like,
Oh my
all
God.
right. So I just had a conversation, and I was like, that was a little scary. If you could just, well, maybe I didn't actually, maybe I didn't have a conversation then. No, I might have. I'm trying to remember exactly, because my husband and I had been talking about it, and he's like, so you think there's a presence? And other people had combined and like, oh, there's like energy here. And I was like, well, listen, at the end of the day, like, I hope to die in my home. I don't want to die in the hospital. That's not the ideal, right?
Yeah.
Like 100 years, that's a good life. And you would want to, okay. And so I was like, all right, I'm just going to start talking to her. And everyone was like, her. And I was like, yeah, I just know it's a her.
Okay.
So I'm talking to my husband, and I'm like, her name's Marina. Just like came to me, and he was like, Alex, you can't name her Marina. Like, I had an ex-girlfriend named Marina. And I was like, no, I didn't name her. I don't know why. I just know it. Her name is Marina. Maybe because I've been talking to her a little bit. I don't know. Our realtors get us this book that's like a historic home, or like a book about the historic homes of the area. And this house that we bought is in it.
Yeah.
Claire, I shit you not. You open it up. The matriarch of the home, who built this house with her husband, is fucking named Marina.
No. How did that make you feel when you saw that?
I still get chills. It makes me smile. It actually makes me so happy, because I was talking to her, and I was like, I get it. Like, you see us doing work on this house. I need you to know that I love this house so much. Anything I'm doing is only to improve and preserve it.
Yeah.
I'm not changing anything. Like, you crushed this house. It's amazing, but we can't live here if we can't get insured. And so we need to fix these things, because it's been 100 years,
Yeah, of course.
And it's funny. I really haven't felt her presence in like the last couple years. Like,
Oh.
I think she was like, okay, now I know it's taken care of. I can like move. But we've been here like 5.5. So for the first few years, she would kind of say hi in funny little ways.
Interesting. If you had the choice, if you do get the choice as a spirit,
Yeah.
do you think, and say you pass in your home, would you stay a little bit longer just to see who moves in? Or are you like, I'm out here, I'm tired, I'm gone?
That's a great question, because I don't know that they're mutually exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think maybe if you're like ready to move on, go to the night, you can still come visit or see things. I mean, again, I don't know how it works exactly, but I do think there's something to the spirits that are still like grounded here.
Mm.
That's some sort of unresolved something. So I guess ideally I would love to have resolved my shit in this corporeal form and get to like move on to the next chapter. But I don't know. I'm sentimental. I'm very sentimental. So I would definitely be checking in, you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, I don't own my place. I'm in a rented place now. I'm about to enter a very sort of, I don't know, like I don't know, not a very settled time in my life, even though I'm, about to turn 40. So it's not that kind of time. I've kind of gone the opposite way from every single one of my friends. But I don't know, like I was reading this thing about past lives and astrology. And there's a great book. I must, next time I see you, even if I'm just visiting, I'll try and bring it and show you. And it says that, we are born into this form and this set of signs that, embody as our moon or sun or whatever, to learn lessons. And then our spirit learns those lessons, and then we move on to the next signs until we do the whole thing, and then we move on to the next place. So being very aware of that, I started to become very obsessed with, what does a Libra need to know? Why do I have a Capricorn moon? And all of those kind of things. And it said Capricorn moon, usually you're born into a family where your mother's quite harsh or emotionally closed. And I was like, yes, which is very true. I know that might not be all Capricorn moons, perhaps those listening, but for me, that resonated. And I've had to learn to look after myself and not have a very maternal presence around me all the time, even though my mum's still here and I don't hate her. It's just complicated. What kind of lessons do you think that and I don't think that's the only lesson I'm here to learn. There's many lessons, but what kind of lessons do you think you're learning, or that you have to learn in order to resolve this life to move on to the next one?
That is a very good question. It's funny. What's your rising sign?
Sagittarius.
Okay, because I'm Libra, Gemini moon, Capricorn rising.
Yeah.
I think a couple things. Well, I saw somebody early days before I moved to New York. My dad had just passed away. My then boyfriend of the time, 4 years, who now is my husband, we had just broken up, and I was moving to New York. And I walked in because I like to say I'm an open skeptic, right? I love science. I love proof. I want things to make real sense and for there to be evidence supporting my position and my theory or whatnot. However, I'm also very open, and I understand that it's impossible to know everything, especially right now when things evolve. And so I'm an open skeptic. And I went to this psychic woman who said something that stayed with me since. She said, everyone's born with a deck of cards, right? And if you think about your life in the ways that you get, let's say, 2 or 3 really lucky cards, and it's like the big things, whether that be health, wealth, beauty, trust, love, support, like just these like different, like, those can all be incredibly beautiful things that can carry you through your life. They can also, the lack thereof, be the shit cards.
Yeah.
And you will get dealt some really good cards, and you will get dealt shit cards. And part of your, dharma or your karma is to work that shit out. And something that she said to me, and I wish I had this like recorded, but I didn't at the time. This was like kind of early days where, it wasn't just so iPhone-y and we just kept recording everything or doing whatever. She said trust was a big issue for me.
Oh, okay.
And so I think that trust of self or others or of the universe, that some other shoe wasn't going to drop. And even if things were good, that I didn't need to brace myself for the rug being pulled out, has been like a forever constant lesson in battle. Like I've had to work very hard to, and I'd like to think that I've improved on it greatly, but to just be here right now, not being so busy that I'm not landed and appreciating exactly what's around me, and the beauty that it is, even if it is painful or whatever it is. And I think, the other one might have been like loss, like grief or loss, because I've experienced a lot of that, more than your average bear, for 38 years.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was really interesting. So I think trust of self is a really hard thing too. I think Libras, since we're always trying to find balance, which seems
Oh, we're not balanced. We're shit. We're like, they're like, oh, you're so bad. So it's the idea that we're trying to find balance our whole lives. So
Mhm.
it's always like this. It's never like this. But I
Yeah.
think with work, I'm very balanced. Like I can make decisions on work real fast. But
Mm.
when it comes to what do I eat tonight? What do I wear? Does that go with that? Are those shoes going with it? Like it's dumb small things. And when I'm going to like events or I'm filming a thing, I take like 10 million outfits because I cannot decide. And then I've got an idea. I'll wear this on the Friday, and then I wear the thing I didn't think I was going to wear. My brain's constantly like this, but with work and everything else, fine. But I resonate the trust thing, that resonates a lot with me. I think it might be the Capricornian thing, to be honest with you. Like, but I find I know to a lot of outside people, I seem very open and friendly and quite extrovert. But yeah, I'm like, get away from me. Like, stay away. And it's a dichotomy. Do you find people saying that to you? Because you have people around at your house, you've got lots of friends, you've got a great social life, but do you feel like you have to keep being arm's length a little bit?
I mean, I think when I was younger, 100%. I mean, I kept people close, but as close as I was willing to, and very few people knew that as a truth for me, that it was a way to like protect, I think, here, because I didn't, it's exactly what you're saying. It's that the Capricorn is like, only I can make this happen. Only I can't rely on anybody else. It's got to be just me doing everything. I don't trust anyone to show up for me. So I will just, yes, I love to be social. I love my friends. But it's taken work to trust people.
Yeah.
And then it took work too. And I don't know if this is a astrological thing or it's a, stereotypical feminine thing, that we let other people's behavior slide as opposed to just being direct and not making it a big deal, but like, hey, I don't like that. So moving forward, I need this to shift,
Boundaries.
and taking, boundary. Is that, still working on it. But,
It's
I
hard.
think what I'm trying to see is that it's fucking awesome
Yeah.
that we get to do this work on ourselves. Like a lot of people, especially as I travel more and more, don't have the city coast mentality of the cities where therapy is like, it's like taking a class in yourself. There is no shame around it. You're not fixing something that's broken.
Yeah.
You're learning how to not be a reaction to some sort of trauma or something you've experienced. It doesn't fix you. It just gives you more choices.
Yeah.
Is what I see it as. It's taking a class in yourself. And I'm not so full of myself to think that I know how to do everything. And, living this life is complicated and it's hard. And I would like to be the best version of myself. So if somebody can hold up a mirror and reflect behavior that I'm not even seeing, because I've, been in survival mode for so long, because I've been programmed to dismiss my feelings, because, I am worried that no one's going to show up for me. Like, isn't that interesting? Do I want to be right? Or do I want to be free? And I want to be free. So I think therapy is so important for that. And it's fucking cool. Like,
It's cool. It's cool.
know?
There's nothing wrong with it. It's like I've been in therapy for so long, but and even the things you talk about in therapy can change over the years because you are changing as a person. So in my early 30s, I was concerned with completely different things, and in the last year, with my breakup, after 20 years with somebody, that is then a whole mental shift because I'm learning so many lessons about myself as somebody who's alone and now someone who's going out to meet other people, I've had to make so many new friends in the last 12 months. And I think that's it's good. It's a good thing to be open. I've had to learn to be so much more open. But it's funnily enough, I was talking to a friend today before this podcast, it's mostly about men and relationships, and I've not been in any relationships in this last year. I've met men and that's fine. Some I like, some I'm like, oh, whatever. But I'm so scared and frozen because I'm like, I don't want you to see me, the real me. So I just have kept myself with my scented candles in my house because I'm like, I don't want to do it. And when I feel a guy kind of like maybe coming towards me a little bit, I'm like, you know what? I'm cool. I'll see you later. Like, I get really scared. And that's something we've got to work on. We can't be like this our whole lives.
Well, I think vulnerability is actually so brave. There's when I'm doing the Comic Cons and people sometimes are really emotional when they're, meeting us Red Dead folk because they have spent hundreds of hours with us. And I see, like, sometimes, especially with the men, this like shame coming over them that they're getting emotional. And every time I'm like, hey, look, we have tear ducts for a reason. If you don't, like, how beautiful is it that you are this passionate about this thing? Like, fucking cry, man. Like, I'll cry with you. I've actually like wept at my booth with people because I'm listening to their beautiful stories and watching them be so brave to be that vulnerable. And I think, same but different, to let the guard down, which is like a very hard thing on any Capricorn anything, and to let somebody see you means that you're vulnerable to pain and to hurt. But I always remind myself of another thing that a therapist said to me once, where she said, we only fear the things that have already happened to us.
Oh shit.
And didn't you survive that?
Oh,
aren't you here now? And I was like,
oh, Alex, we've just had a breakthrough. Oh my God.
We're bracing ourselves for the things because we're like, I don't want to hurt that badly. I don't want to hurt that badly. And what we're not allowing is like space and to see ourselves and be like, holy shit, like, sis, you fucking got through that. And it's not about repeating patterns, but you'll get it. You'll get through whatever comes again, and you're stronger and better now.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
you're right. So this fear is old. It's old shit, and you already survived it.
You're so right. But our brains and I think for me, I don't know if you feel the same, it's about control. Because I'm like, I just need to control my situation. So all of you can bugger off. I'm in control now. And when you let variables in, you can't control variables. You can't control a partner, a husband, a boyfriend, girlfriend, a friend, a mom, a dad. You can't control random variables. And it's not that I isolate myself. We have very sociable jobs, you and I, so we've chosen this weird life. And I love it so much. But that's where I get out all my weird shit so that my personal life becomes very strangely controlled. It's a very weird thing.
I mean, you think it's controlled.
Yes.
But it's, and that's the thing too, is it's riding that line between, okay, yes, I want to keep myself safe. I'm not going to like, throw myself into this potentially toxic dynamic or something, right? But that's wisdom. And then at the same time, if it is too controlled, then actually all you're doing is reacting to past shit and you're not being like here right now.
Yeah.
So it's this funny little, merry-go-round of stuff. But I think more and more, like, the healthier we get, the more we're able to take it as it comes and not let it debilitate us in any way. Like, it's not going to stop me from making new friends just because I had somebody that I thought was a dear friend be really awful to me.
Yeah, you're right. What do you charge by the hour, Alex? By the way.
Well, listen, between this writer's strike and then the actor's strike, which I 10,000% support and am behind, I might need a pivot, and I like the mind. So that's been a perfect, 360 back to
I
I
would
endlessly fascinating.
I would call you once a week. I'll pay you. I'll call you once a week. I can in turn I will just tell you some astrology stuff and like and that you know what I mean? Like I can do that. I can do your I've got my tarot cards. I can do shall we before we end the podcast, do you want to ask a question and we'll do some tarot live
Yeah.
on the well, it's not live on the pod, but for those watching you'll see afterwards. So Alex, what I want you to do is ask me a question. I'm just clearing the deck and you're going to ask me a question and
Okay.
I am going to do the tarot for you.
Okay, so out loud? Yes.
Yeah, go for it out loud. What do you want to ask?
Okay.
Oh, she's doing it right. She's doing it proper. I can feel the energy, guys.
What is the lesson I need to know and be aware of moving forward in the next 3 months?
Got it. Lesson that you need to be aware of, that you need to know about in the next 3 months.
Yes.
All right. Oh, okay. That's a really good question. Mine are always like really boring love questions. Does he like me? Will I hear from him again? Okay. Let's shuffle the deck and see which cards pop out. I'm going to pick 3. This one. Oh, that one's popped out. So I usually just do it so that if they pop out and
That's exactly how they're talking to you. I do the same thing with my tarot.
100%. 100%. Okay, so I'm just going to pick 3 cards and then we'll do an energy of the deck. Oh. These are interesting cards.
Oh boy. I mean, that tracks.
One of them's quite heavy, I suppose.
Yeah, never a dull moment over here.
Oh, crap. Okay. Right.
Oh, jeez.
Actually, no, I don't think this is going to be a bad reading. Okay, so the
I
energy...
mean, I don't think any of them are bad. I said information to be aware of. So like, hey, I do believe in free will, but I also do believe that we are given these patterns, these tests, these lessons, so we get to choose how we operate in the lesson. Do I want to learn it or do I not? That's up to me.
Exactly. So the energy of the deck, which is the card at the bottom of the deck, so the energy of the reading here is the 6 of Wands, which is a really good card. I want you to think about looking back on your successes and the things that bring you joy, being thankful. You're not quite there yet, but you can see this rider has come home and there's a celebratory kind of vibe to it, but it's just a 6. It's not like a larger number. It's not like a more powerful card, but it's a nice energy. So that's cool. So let's see. We've got the 4 of Swords here. So at the moment, I would say you got to sidestep. It's about not taking much action. So let's say you're just resting. Don't take much action. It's about thinking and contemplating and deciding the next move. This is a card of inaction. This is the only colored part of the card, the stained glass. Everything else is kind of grey and dull. It's because you need to rest the mind. You need to take a step back. You need to really think. The swords are mind energy. They're associated with air signs and air. So these are your thoughts. Your thoughts need to just rest. Then we've got here the 8 of Cups. Okay, so somebody's walking away. Something that doesn't serve them anymore. They've got to walk away. You can see the moon just looking down upon this person. It's not exactly a dark night, but it's not sunny either. Again, quite a grey looking card. So I think this kind of represents your mind or where it might be. But there's walking away, but it's not bad. You're walking away to a new place, This doesn't serve you anymore. The next card in the deck is the 9 of Cups, which is a great wish fulfillment card. So you have to imagine that the 9 is a good place to go. So, and then you've got the 2 of Pentacles. This is earth energy. You can see that behind this man here is torrid. It's uncontrollable, and you're almost juggling from one thing to the other, and it feels like you're juggling forever. It's like a loop, like an 8. You're going, okay, it's imbalanced, and you don't know which pentacle to kind of pay attention to. So if we think about your question, what do you need to know or be aware of? Okay, let's like put them all together here. I think you need to take a lot of time for yourself. If you don't know what to do, take time out. Okay? Don't feel afraid of walking away from things that do not no longer emotionally serve you, even if it's hard, because you're going to a better place. There'll be a lot of juggling to do, but I think with the energy of the reading, you're going to get to a good place with it. I think you have the strength to do it. He doesn't look like he's struggling, he's just juggling, and that's it. So I think that's what you need to be aware of. Rest, walk away from things that don't serve you, be mindful there might be not a lot of juggling in the next sort of 3 months, but you're going to be okay. Is that okay?
I mean, yeah, it actually makes a lot of sense, all of it.
Crap. Oh, thank you, Spirit. Thank you, Spirit.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Spirit. Alex, you've been absolutely wonderful to end the podcast. We've been talking about all sorts of spiritual things. What would you like to say to anyone listening that, you know, wants to make a change in their life? They might be a wee bit scared.
Okay. The hardest lesson that I've learned thus far in my 38 years of existence, and only, I mean, came out of, because I really did think that I could, you know, handle things myself, was after my second parent passed away, that ask for help if you need it. It's the hardest thing in the world. You are not a burden to anyone if you are asking for help. You have to almost talk to yourself or treat yourself like you would your friend or best friend, or how you wish you had a best friend. If your best friend came to you and said, hey, I'm really struggling, I can't do this on my own, would there ever be judgment? Would there ever be anything at them? Would it feel like a burden? No. So you have to do that to yourself and allow yourself the grace and the bravery to ask for help. And whether that be from a mentor figure, from a friend, from a therapist, ask for help. It's the greatest thing you'll do for yourself. And that's the only way to move forward, because otherwise you'll be paralyzed. You could shrink. You could go into destructive behavior. Just ask for help. People like to help other people. Contrary to how this world looks right now, they actually do. There is goodness, and everybody rises, you know, when people are lifting each other up. So
I love that. And that's, you know, that's coming from a stubborn, hard Capricorn risings. And I agree, Capricorn moon person. So I'm agreeing with that. Alex, you've been absolutely wonderful. I always like talking to you, and I can't wait to live in the same city as you.
I'm waiting for it. I adore you. Thank you for having me on. And yeah, I'm gonna read your cards next, and you know, next Tuesday at 8:30 my time.
Yes. The check's in the post.
Great.
Yes, or I'll Venmo you, as the Americans say.
Perfect.
I'll Venmo you, yo. Guys, thank you very much for watching and listening to Hot Pod Time Machine. I've been Claire. This has been Alex, and we'll see you again soon. Bye bye.